to one and all Dice Tower chat. Uh, you caught me just after a slight moment of panic, which, to be fair, is oftentimes my standard operating procedure. But I went to start the live stream and I got an unknown error. So looks like we're good now. So everything should be good. And hopefully, all of our technical bugaboos are out of the way. So, welcome again to the Daily Chat. It is Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. This might be my first Wednesday chat, I'm not sure, but I would like to introduce tonight's special guest, Mr. Mark Cooke. Mark, welcome to the Dice Tower Daily Chat. How are
Hello.
you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Good to have you here. As always, we've got a lovely group of people already in our chat, and so we'll be getting to that in just a moment. But just in case, Mark, I know this is unlikely, but in case someone is not intimately familiar with all that you do, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and kind of let those few people who may not know what you do, sir.
Sure. I guess the thing I do mostly is that I'm one of the organisers of Airecon, as you can see on screen. AIRE. It's a river here in Leeds. This is
river
named after.
runs through it.
Yeah, and so we just had our most recent event in March, at the start of March. We just managed to squeak in.
Yeah.
And so we run it every March. It's usually around the same time, I think, as Dice Tower West and Gamma and those kinds of conventions.
Right.
So it's mainly a play-focused convention in the north of England. We just have huge open gaming areas, but we still have things like trade and events and lots of fun things going on as well. It's a fairly newish event, maybe. It's coming up to about 5 years since the first ever event that we held, which was in my house, not here in this room, in my old house, where we just had a bunch of friends come around and play some games over a weekend, and then it got a bit out of hand, really. And now, we have a few thousand people coming and joining us.
Now it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing now.
Yeah,
and
it is a whole thing now. Yeah.
One of these days, I'd love to get to Airecon. I think it's in the cards. I mean, one of these years we'll get out there. I have heard very good things. Many of my not just American but UK friends have been there, so I've heard very good reports about Airecon. I'm a little upset that I can't be going to one that's actually held in your house, but I mean, I guess I'll take a convention center if I have to. All right.
Yeah, we only did one. Yeah.
Only one in your house?
Yeah, and then we moved to like a church hall, which was kind of interesting because we couldn't do it on Sunday, so it was a Friday-Saturday convention, which is kind of seems a bit odd now.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean,
we did two there, and then we moved to a convention.
You necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. All right, let's take a quick browse through the comments. I'm going to put this one up there. I don't know, Mark, you probably didn't get a chance to see it, but today at 2:00, Roy Cannaday and Mark Street and Brian Drake do what's called I think it's called the Board Game Battle Royale, where they have kind of like this tournament of champions, and it's usually about board games, but today it was about 80s movies. And so Nick Wagner says, hey, I got to say that 80s movies Battle Royale was pretty good. So I've got a couple of issues about this Battle Royale, Mark, and I'll share them with you and the rest of the chat, and you can let me know. So the biggest issue I had was that Ferris Bueller did not make it into the final two.
Wow.
Ferris Bueller lost in a matchup to The Princess Bride. And while The Princess Bride is a fine film, I've got no issues with The Princess Bride, very quotable, the whole nine. My thing is that The Princess Bride, in my humble estimation, Mark, The Princess Bride has grown in estimation over the last 10 to 15 years. And I'm getting thumbs down now. I'm seeing thumbs down. I get that I'm not, obviously, because it beat Ferris Bueller today. But I think that when Princess Bride first came out, it was just a movie. It was just a movie. It wasn't that big of a deal. Now it was good. Don't get me wrong. I still, like I said, I really like it. But it's not Ferris Bueller, Mark. It's not Ferris Bueller.
Mm.
I don't think I've
I
convinced
feel
you.
no, but I would say though something like Ferris Bueller is very kind of American centric,
Yeah.
and so
Okay.
like
Okay.
over
That's fair.
here, like that
That's
kind
fair.
of bunking off school to go drive around is not a thing because we can't drive at school. Like you
Ah.
know,
Just the term bunking off school shows that this is an American thing because the first time I had heard someone say bunking off was our mutual friend Dan Hughes, and we got into a
oh
10
yeah,
or 15-minute conversation about what bunking off meant because I'd never heard of that before. But now it's like I understand that it's like playing hooky kind of. It's like
yeah,
going away and you're
yeah,
not supposed to. So anyway, that's a fair point. Ferris Bueller is a very probably American centric movie, and so that may have limited its appeal.
yeah.
Uh, Raiders of the Lost Ark made it to the finals, but it lost. Mark, it lost to The Empire Strikes Back, and that's okay. Those are both great films.
Okay.
I probably would have picked Raiders, but anyway, Nick, it was good. It was a very good one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look. Let's get to some actual questions. I'm sorry, Mark. I
That's
shouldn't have.
it's it's like it felt like you needed to get that off your chest,
I
really.
did.
Like,
I really did. It's been building, and hey, Kabuki Kid, Good Days Games got a lot of people saying hello, and say hello back to everybody. We've got a greetings from Nashville, Tennessee. That's good. That's good. We've got looking and sounding great, Mark. That's what I like to hear and see. Okay.
good.
I'm still strolling. We have a lot of people, but I'm still waiting to get to some questions here. Ah, well, this is
Mm-hmm.
Nick again. This is a quick question. Mark, where does that secret portal above your left shoulder go to? Actually, it's above his right shoulder. It's above your left front. At least on my screen it is. Maybe it's not on their screen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's a quick escape route for when
I think they. Oh, is that?
the
I thought
kids are
they were
being
talking.
really bad. I can just
I thought they were talking about the Airecon logo. Actually. Okay, here we go.
oh
Here's
oh
here's an
okay.
here's an actual question. Ken Aguasca? No, there's no K, Ken, in the last name. I'm sorry. Ken Aguasa? I hope. Aguasa? Hey, Mark, your top two games and why?
Oh well. Oh, this is handy actually. So we were doing a series on the Airecon Facebook channel. Luke
Ah,
Pryor and I.
yes.
He was on here last week or so. Um,
Yeah.
where we just ranked all of our collection, basically. We're using the Pub Meeple
Ah,
thing. It was
yes, that's
taking us
right.
ages.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But we just sped through the last bit. We just finished it about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So my top two games, it was all gets very close at the top. And you could probably at any time switch them around, and I'd be fine with it. It's
Yes.
probably Brewcrafters and
Wow.
Voyages of Marco Polo.
Okay. That's interesting. Now I'm giving it away that I didn't watch. I'm sorry, I didn't watch your finals. But that's really interesting. Marco Polo, I love. I think that's a fantastic Euro game and game in general. And Brewcrafters is it's good too. It to me it feels very much like a riff on Agricola, but with a more
Yeah,
interesting theme, I suppose.
yeah. I would. Yeah, I've heard that. I've never actually played Agricola. I've played Caverna, and
Oh,
I could see why people would say similar things. But for me, some of it is the theme. Another hobby of mine is craft beer and like
hmm,
brewing and all of that kind of stuff. So it just appeals to me way more. I I think I don't get to play it as often as I'd like because it's a little bit longer.
yeah,
I'd love it if
yeah.
someone could come up with like a 90 minutes, 2 hour version. That would be like really in my sweet spot.
Yeah,
But
because they came out with a card game,
um,
but it was not anywhere near the. I mean, it was
yeah,
really just a filler.
nah, nah, yeah. But I like it. I like the kind of the two phases of worker placement. You can have the main
Hmm.
board stuff and then your own player board. I like all the different options, and just there's so much stuff in there, like
Yeah, there
so many
is.
different types of beer and things like that you can play through, and the way you can set up your brewery, I think is really clever. I think
Hmm.
for me, it's certainly been so. I kind of seek out these brewing games and craft beer games.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
actually own that many of them because
Mm,
a lot of them I've not found. Not that they're not good, but they don't often do a great job at capturing that feeling of
right.
brewing. Whereas
Sure.
brewcrafters, I think, it's maybe more like managing a brewery rather than brewing, but still.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if someone could come out with like the viticulture of brewing, I think
Ah, yeah.
that'd be
All right.
ideal.
All right. Jamie Stegmeyer
Yeah.
needs to get on that. Um, so you brew at home?
Yeah, I have done. Yeah, but often I go into a brewery and do some brewing in there. So we brewed
Oh,
a beer for our wedding,
oh, really? What
which is
type of
cool. That was
beer
called
was it?
Match. Yeah, yeah. It was just like a brown ale.
Okay.
It was pretty good. Everyone was enjoying it. We called it matrimony ale. So it was good.
Nice. Very nice. Clever. I like it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Brewcrafters is a good game. I don't own it, but I played it maybe 3 times. Would not mind playing that again. Um, Goofy Spielt. I apologize. No spoiler. I'm sorry. I did. I messed up the. I really am serious. I hate spoiling things. I didn't think about it. I got so caught up in my. Um, yeah. Sorry. I messed up the
yeah.
but still worth watching. Even if you know this was a particularly good one with, especially if you watch the live chat replay, there was some really funny stuff going on in the chat there. So, okay, let's find some more fantastic questions, Mark, shall we? Got a lot of Ferris
Mhm.
Bueller things. Ah, here we go. Dean Muramoto asks, Mark, does Airecon have a games library? And if so, how large is it?
Yeah, we do. We're very fortunate we're able to partner with a local game store here, and
Mm-hmm.
they have a library that they use through the year, and they run game nights and things like that. So we partner with them. We basically pack up all their library, take it over to the convention center for the weekend. It's over 600 games at this point. Um,
Okay.
so, but it's pretty good. We try and um, it's a really awesome experience. They kind of let me basically go into their warehouse and give me a budget each year
Oh,
to go and just
really?
get a load of the newest stuff. And
Oh, man.
yeah, that's always fun. It's like um, like being a kid in a sweet shop.
Yeah, no
Just like
kidding.
so much. You get to spend all these games without actually spending any money. It's
Right.
buy all these games without spending money. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's in March, you said, yeah, right?
Yeah, it's in March.
So I'm just trying to think. At that point,
Yeah.
you're able to get, especially over there, you're probably able to get like the Essen games and the whole, you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So that's
Yeah.
yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing though because we've got to think. So obviously there is a big contingent of like hobby gamers and people that are really into it, but actually we get a lot of people that are more casual and they just come in for the
Oh
day or
yeah,
they come in with a family. So you're not necessarily getting all the latest hottest things that you're
yeah,
seeing talk about on the Facebook groups and things like that. We've got to think about things that maybe are a bit more accessible. So certainly things
right,
like Azul and
sure.
stuff like that is just. I'm trying to think what I can't quite. I think our most checked out game this year, I think, was actually Wingspan, which I know just
Hmm.
cleaned up
Yeah, I was
at the
actually
BGG Awards. Um,
you anticipated my question because um, really Aircon for all intents and purposes was the last large scale gaming convention of the year. No one knows exactly what's
yeah,
going to happen towards the end of this year. But as far as this year, I mean, you really kind of got in right under the wire there.
just
And
yeah,
and so I was curious as to what the kind of the hot games were. So obviously Wingspan.
Mm.
Um,
yeah. I'm trying to remember the list now because we get a list of all the checked out games afterwards.
right.
Um, it's it's actually like a lot more of the classic, or
Mm,
not necessarily classics, but things like Azul and
sure.
I'm trying to think a bunch of those kinds of games are the ones that get checked out most. Last year or something really random. Escape the Dark Castle was up
Oh,
number one,
wow. Interesting.
and Splendor and and things like that are the ones that. And some of it will be length, because obviously if it's a half an hour game, people can check it out, and it's back in really quickly for it to go out again. The Crew, I think, was a big one this year. Loads of people were after that. So, but it is an interesting balance, because obviously as well, people want us to have 20 copies of the latest hotness. Sure. But then actually, when it comes to next year, what do we do with 19 of those copies? Because now we only need 1 or 2.
Seeing kind of tangentially, seeing Tom kind of cultivate that the Dice Tower library, and he puts a tremendous amount of time and effort into cultivating that library. It really is fascinating to see the process of, okay, do we need this many copies? Do we have enough copies of the ones we really want? Keeping it in an organizational fashion that it's practical. And then that one also has the challenge of it being a mobile library, you know what I mean, where it's literally going all over the place. So it's really interesting to kind of see how that all works. Howard Hayes asks, "Hi Mark, are you still drumming?"
Hello. Oh, hi Howard. I hadn't spotted him in the chat. So many years ago now, I was a drummer in a heavy metal band. And so we did a couple of albums and things like that. It was good fun. Did a tour of Germany.
Wow.
And I think you could probably still find a video out there somewhere on YouTube.
Now, when you say heavy metal, do you mean like heavy metal in the new wave of British metal, heavy metal, or like more modern heavy metal?
It'd be more like new metal, prog metal, I think we used to call ourselves. We'd sit on a bill, I guess, with bands like Tool or Muse, bands like that. But no, unfortunately, I'm not drumming anymore. I tried it. So that band split up. I tried it for a while, but it was like having to go right back to the beginning, because I was used to playing some pretty decent sized crowds and venues and stuff. But it was like back going to these gigs with one man and his dog, and you're just like, do I really want to? As much as I loved it, I was like, I don't know if I can stand the empty hills for a few years again. But
that would be be rough.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So now most of my drumming is done on the kids' toys and in the car on the steering wheel, much to my wife's annoyance.
I was gonna say, just like now you're coming to everyone else's kind of percussion. Kabuki Kid, an all-star. What is the game that got you into the modern hobby? Also, what was the game you loved as a kid?
So actually, as a kid, it was a lot of things like Monopoly and Clue and things like that is what we used to play a lot at home. Or we like Trivial Pursuit, but without the board. We just used to go through the questions and see which ones we might be able to answer. And then it was a lot of card games, Queens, and things like that with my nan. I remember we played a lot for pennies. So she just had a huge jar of pennies, and we used to bet using those. And then as I got a bit older, I was into things like 40K and Necromunda, and used to play some RPGs, Cyberpunk, things like that. And then I kind of drifted away, I guess, probably at university or college, or until it was probably maybe about 7-8 years ago now. I was a weekend away, and some guys had brought some games. I think they brought like Catan and Carcassonne and other games kind of in that ilk. And it just really blew my mind, because like I'd still only been used to things like Monopoly. Whenever we went home at Christmas, it was still playing those games at my mom's house. But playing Catan for the first time was just like, wow, this is really cool. And I just went head deep. So that was sort of towards the end of the summer. And then like the next year I was at UK Games Expo. I was like,
you were in deep already.
I think I maybe even went to Essen.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe even went to Essen that year after. Maybe it might be the year after that. But I was just, where my collection just boomed overnight. And I kind of did that thing I think a lot of people probably do it if they get really into the hobby quickly like that. Is we just buy anything and everything. If I went back and looked at my collection at that point, it'd be vastly different to what it is these days.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So probably I'd say Catan and Carcassonne is what got me into modern gaming.
Right. And you know, that's a similar story to many of us, myself included. You know, I've mentioned before that Catan was my gateway game. Do you remember, Mark? I don't know if you had a similar experience to me, but I was simultaneously blown away by it. Like at the end of that first game, I almost didn't even know what to think because I had no frame of reference. Do you remember kind of this feeling of first of all, I remember at the time thinking it was remarkably complicated. Like I was like information overload, which now seems kind of quaint, right? Because you know a game of Catan's weight, you know, you could pick that up. But at the time, again, I didn't have any of the vocabulary. I had no frame of reference. I had never heard of victory points. None of that stuff made any sense at all to me. I just knew that I felt like I was in the presence of something really remarkable. So do you kind of remember that first feeling you had?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it was at this games sort of away day thing that I just, as they set it out and they started explaining the rules, I was like, man, there's so much going on here. Like I can see there's dice, but I'm not using them to move. Like, this is weird. And then we can trade between each other. Like this is, and then I think it was the robber actually that was the thing that made me think like this is something different. Like it's not the game that screws you over anymore. There's like someone is physically picking on you and like So some of those kinds of things which for those classic games you don't get those kinds of things in that. It's much more like dice driven, isn't it?
Right. Well, and just even the concept at the time, I remember the concept that this game is not going to play the same every time. You know, when you play Monopoly, you're playing Monopoly. Generally, when you play the game of life, you're playing the game of life. But I remember thinking, man, depending on where those numbers show up and where you place your first, I mean, it's going to different game every time. I mean, that whole idea, just the things that we take for granted now, you know, to me was just like a mind-blowing thought at the time. So I try not to forget that. You know what I mean? I try not to kind of lose that wonder because there are people every day that are having that experience. You know what I mean? So I try to remember that because I think it's cool. Hey, are you good awesome. Are you good with a twofer, a back-to-back Kabuki question?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Okay. I think Kabuki, this is one of the standard Kabuki questions, but I like it because it covers a wide range. So name a favorite of each: movie, TV show, book, author, video game, band or artist. And you already said board game. So you can answer as many or as few of those you want. So like movie, TV show, books, video games, music.
I'll try to find the comment so I can go through that. Movie is hard. I have a really vast range, like the kinds of movies I like. So I'll pick two that I think are kind of probably fairly opposite.
Okay.
So I'm cheating a bit and putting two in here. And so Old Boy would be one, which the Korean film.
Yeah.
I think is just really cool. And there's like a documentary about the film that's definitely worth watching because there's just so much in there, and symbology and things like that. I think it's really, really, it's part of a trilogy, but that's by far the best of the three.
Sure.
And then at the other end is Amélie, which is a French film.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which I actually based my whole final project at university on.
Oh, really?
Was Amélie. And yeah.
Who is the actress in that movie? Why am I struggling to remember the actress?
She was in with Tom Hanks. What's that? What were the Dan Brown films? I've completely forgotten the names.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The Angels and Demons.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've forgotten her name.
For some reason, I couldn't remember her name, but.
Yeah, Audrey Tautou.
That's what it was. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. So that would be Film for a book, again, it's just tough. I would probably go with something like The Book Thief.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the few books that I've reread. Like often
Right.
with books, I'm fine with like reading them and going like,
Sure.
"Oh, that was a good story," and then move on to the next
You
one.
move on.
But
Yeah.
I'd say something like The Book Thief is one that I've read a few times, and it's very very good. I've never seen the film of that,
I have not either, actually.
which I don't know why.
Favorite band or music artist?
Yeah. I think probably a band called 65 Days of Static, and so they're a UK band. They're probably not very well known. It's
Yeah,
mostly
I don't.
instrumental stuff. They did.
Okay.
They were on a video game. I think some of their music was on recently. I hadn't known this until I mentioned it somewhere else, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, they were on." I got into them from this video game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they were kind of in that same ilk as bands like Explosions in the Sky, who were on
Mm-hmm.
Friday Night Lights,
Mm-hmm.
things
Okay.
like that. Where it's all instrumental, but it's all very interesting and it's very
Yeah.
cool. I think I saw someone else asking about like my favorite metal bands,
Yes.
and that would have been bands like Korn and Deftones. I was big into those kinds of bands.
The new metal.
Pitch
Yeah.
Shifter, which were a UK. Yeah, all the new metal stuff. I was the new
Mm-hmm.
metal kid in our band, and then I think we were quite a diverse taste in our band as well. So we
Sure.
had like guys that were into more bands like Pearl Jam
Right.
and Nirvana and stuff like that, which wasn't really my jam. Excuse me.
Wasn't your Pearl Jam? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't my Pearl Jam. Yeah. So what else? Video game. I'll be honest, I'm not big into video games.
Mm-hmm.
I played a bit when I was younger. We had an Amiga at home,
Yes.
and a Commodore.
Represent the Commodore.
Tape deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the old tape deck Commodore where it used to freeze and you had to rewind it. Like that just seems bonkers now.
Uh-huh.
But I loved all the Mario games. I think on the was it Mario Sunshine? That was big. We had a GameCube and a N64 and things like that. So they were a lot of fun. I played a lot of Quake at university.
Okay.
Quake 3 was it?
That sounds
We had like we had a LAN network set up in our student house between like 7 of us that all lived together.
Right.
I think was there any others on the list?
Yeah, I think we got that. That's an exhaustive list.
Cool.
I think you did splendidly. Dean Muramoto, do you have guest speakers at Airecon, and are you going to have Delicio as speaker? If so, so you do. You have guests. I know this because I know some.
Yeah, we have guests. Yeah, so this year we just had the brothers Murph came over, Paula Deming came over, Mandy and Suzanne came over. We had Matthew Jude from These Shores. Oh, Suzanne didn't make it in the end. I don't know why I'm saying Suzanne.
Yeah.
But Suzanne had hoped to come, and then just something didn't work out. But yeah, we do. Last couple of years, Rodney Smith's come over. It was just a clash with Gamma this year. Usually we are right before Gamma, and so he's kind of come to Airecon and then flown over to Gamma.
Right.
But yeah, we just couldn't make it work this year because it was the other way around. And of course we would love to have Mike over at some point. We kind of were chatting up when Suzanne couldn't make it this time. We was quickly messaging and saying, "Oh, is there any chance?" But it just didn't work out.
We talked about it, but it was just too last minute, and at that point it was still travel was still kind of up in the air. So hopefully soon.
Yeah, so it's pretty. Yeah. And so we've got to just see what happens with next year. It's still too early to tell in terms of travel again. But of course, we'd love to see about getting Mike over.
I need to I need to address Kabuki. I'm not trying to make this an all Kabuki. Not that there's any problem with that. Just Kabuki says the new wave of British heavy metal ended in like 1981. Mike, well, I'm aware. I'm not saying did you play like during the new wave of British. I meant like did you play in the style of? So we're like was Was it a band that sounded like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden, or was it more modern? Just, I want to put that out there. All right. Let's see. And we always have wonderful chats through here, but I just want to make sure we get to the questions. Earth Fact. Do you feel like newer games are doing a good job of implementing social diversity into them? This is an interesting question.
Wow. I think some are, and I think it's probably more based on the publishers rather than games themselves. I think some publishers really work hard to try and do it, and I think it's certainly getting better. I don't think it's where it probably should be. But yeah, I think with everything, I think it just takes time. And but I think there's some great people that are doing some really good work. It was interesting. I worked on a German translation of a game, and that's interesting there because in German they don't have like sort of neutral pronouns and things like that. So it's you have to pick one or the other. And some of the game companies there, so like Pegasus and Eggertspiel, are trying to make a movement where, because you have to pick between the two, the norm is to go with male, but these companies are actually kind of trying to make it female and just to balance it out because there's so many games doing it one way or the other. But yeah, I think obviously, I think if there's games that have player mats or specific character cards and things like that, I think it's great when companies are able to do things like double-sided boards or just add in some extra roles to just make sure there is some diversity and stuff in there.
I agree, and I apologize.
So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm just getting I'm getting something out because it's what we're discussing. So kind of what you're saying. Well, first of all, I guess for my answer to this would be, it depends on what your metric is. Are they doing a good job?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough to say. Are they doing a better job than they were 10 years ago? I think that might be easier to maybe quantify. I think they're getting better. I think that there's still likely a long way to go, but I do like that it's at least a conversation now. But just like you were saying, something simple like this. So this is from this game Endangered, Grand Gamers Guild. You're talking about publishers. There we go. They've got their players here. And so on one side, you've got this philanthropist. On the other side, you've got that philanthropist, right? So just what you're saying is just something that simple. Environmental lawyer, right? I mean, how hard is it to do that? It's not hard at all. Yeah. And it's a great first step, maybe, you know what I mean? To kind of address it. Does it cost a bit more money? I mean, it might, but even if it does, if it costs a little bit more, I don't know. I think it would be money well spent. So that's an interesting question. And I think that we're heading in the right direction. But I'm sure we still have a long way to go. This is a really good question. And you probably have been asked this. Oh, this next one too. That was a good question. Here's another one from Coraloo. You've probably been asked this before, Mark. Any advice for people thinking about setting up their own cons?
Yeah. It's a thing. I've considered doing some video diary type things or something at some point, because there's just so much in there. If anyone is interested and wants a bit more in-depth stuff, you can drop me an email. I have just collected a bunch of stuff that is just now in the form of a big long email that I'm happy to forward on.
That's great.
But my email is just mark@Airecon, spelt as you see it on the screen, .uk, just UK.uk.
UK.
But I'm happy to forward that. Yeah, I think the most important thing I would say is just figure out what kind of event you want it to be, and then that will drive a lot of the other decisions that you make. So before we started Airecon, as I said, we kind of traveled to Games Expo. We went to Essen. We went to a bunch of local games days and smaller cons and stuff like that here in the UK. We went to a lot of games clubs, and we made the effort to go to some a bit further away, just to kind of figure out what people wanted from a convention and whether that lined up with what we were wanting to run. And I think as well, don't try and do too much too soon. We were certainly guilty of that, of trying to put everything on in the first show that we did, because we wanted to be like a proper convention, which
Sure.
I don't even know what that means anymore. But I think just trying to do a few things and do them really well, because there's some things that will always be popular. People want to play games. People want to have a look at some new stuff, things like that. And I think just concentrating on getting that done and getting that done well at first. And so I think if you've kind of decided what kind of convention you want to make it, that'll drive a lot of those decisions, and just really set you up, rather than just kind of putting a bunch of tables in a room and opening the doors and seeing what happens. I think being intentional about, actually we want it to be a gaming focused convention. So actually for the first couple of years, we're not going to have any trade or whatever, or we want to be able to bring the latest games. So actually we're going to put more focus on trades and demos, and we'll have some gaming space as well. But yeah, I think it's just important to kind of sit down and think about that and write it out. So.
Yeah, and there are viable examples of both of those types, right? And others, so I think that's a really good first step. Lily Rock, does Mark attend any cons here in the States?
Mm-hmm. This year was going to be my first year of coming over to the States. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was going to be coming over for Gen Con. I had hoped to make it over for BGG Con as well. Yeah, unfortunately, it just won't happen this year. So I would love to, especially having been to Essen for a few years. I even though they're kind of comparable sizes, Gen Con and Essen, I hear that they're just vastly different events, and so I'd love to see that kind of difference. And
I'm in the same boat.
So I've not made it
from the other end, because I've only been to Gen Con, not been to Essen, but I've heard the similar thing, and so I know exactly what you mean. I want to see what the other one is like.
Yeah.
Do you are you a solo gamer at all, Mark?
No, I've dabbled.
Okay. Well, there's a question. Tarek Kozar says, is there a quick go-to solo game that you always go back to? So if you don't have one, I'll come up with one, but I didn't know how much you solo gamed, if at all.
Yeah, if I do, I tend to actually go online and still play with other people. So it's not so much solo gaming. I like ones that I can set up quickly. I think that's the thing for me with solo gaming, is that I just want to, it's usually to fill a bit of time for some reason. So I'm probably not the most, but the ones that I liked were Bandido. I really like the little kind of puzzle of that. It's only a tiny little game. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's super quick. You just literally open the box and start playing almost.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And then I enjoy one called Rollercade, which is actually probably fairly similar in terms of making little paths with cards. It's a tiny little game that came with a train, and it was like those old video games, like kind of flash games where you're trying to lay a track as the train is just going, and you've just got to try and keep ahead of the train.
Right.
And it's a really neat little game. So.
I think.
But in terms of bigger games, I've struggled. Newton, I really like the Newton solo. I've played that a couple of times. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a clever game. I don't like it as much as I like Marco Polo, which you mentioned earlier, but it's a solid game. I think for quick solo games that I can play kind of back to back, I would say Sprawlopolis is really good. That's a little button shy. I think it's like 18 cards. Yeah. I still have a soft spot in my heart for the little Valeria games, Villages of Valeria, and mostly even more Quests of Valeria. I think those are really solid little solo games. All right. We've got a lot of lovely. We still have Commodore chat going on. A lot of Commodore chat. So, just tons of Commodore. All right.
Well, there was a thing I was going to ask you actually. Yeah. Obviously, with your move, so solo gaming, if I understand correctly for you, a lot of it was just to do with your circumstances and the fact that you couldn't play with people a lot and things like that. Obviously, now you've moved, but are
Yes.
you still feeling like you need to do some solo gaming to make sure you kind of keep up on that? And because
Well,
now
it's
you
in,
obviously have lots of gaming buddies, but
well, I do, but we can't play right now. And so,
oh, of course,
during the kind of quarantining, I'm playing tons of solo games right now. Um, but I guess to get to the spirit of your question, when I had first got here and I had, more people to play with, it did slow down a little bit. Number
mm-hmm.
one, because the so much of my energy was focused on kind of learning the ropes, which I'm still doing, by the way, but because I'm not even 6 months in, maybe around 6 months in. But
Yeah,
when I first got here, almost all of my energy was focused on that. And so I was not even gaming. I mean, not take solo out of the mix. I wasn't gaming much at all. That was probably within the last 5, 6 years. The beginning of this year was probably the least amount of gaming I had been doing, in that last 5 or 6 years. But then as I got more comfortable, I started, that started picking up. Um, but it's really when we kind of went to the quarantine that I started getting, ramping the solo stuff up again. And I've really started to kind of increase
mm.
my solo reviews. I've been doing 2 or 3 of those a week here over the last little bit. And so I feel a little bit more of an impetus to do that as well. So, um, yeah, it's interesting because when I first started, I've mentioned this a million times, so I won't belabor it, but I first really got into solo gaming because I wanted to play the games that were on my shelf. That was not really it's not like that was my preferred way to play. I love solo gaming and I'm happy to represent, my little part of that community. But I've never said that that's my necessarily preferred way to play games. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to play
Sure,
games, but I love multiplayer games. I overall play multiplayer games more than I do solo games. Um, I've just felt like that opportunity should be there, and a good group of solo games should be there for people that choose to do that. That's all I've always said. So,
yeah, yeah.
okay. Wow, I guess I'm doing okay on the pronunciations of names tonight. I'm feeling good about that. Jaden F asks, "Have you played Imperial Assault? If so, do you think it's a good game? Have you played Imperial Assault, Mark?"
I haven't, no, unfortunately not.
Okay.
It's one that there's just so many games. I
Yes.
would love to if someone set it up and was like, "Do you want a game?" I'd certainly have a go. I've just not had the opportunity. I think. Luke Pryor was wanting to try and play Rebellion together.
Okay.
We've not managed to do that yet,
Yeah. I have neither
but yeah, it
played.
certainly looks impressive.
It does. I have neither played Rebellion nor Imperial Assault. I'm ashamed, and I can even go one better. I've not even played Descent, which Imperial Assault is based
Right.
off of. So that's probably a pretty
Yeah,
big
yeah.
hole in my gaming CV, if you want to call it that. Um, I'm not anti. As a matter of fact, I owned Imperial Assault for a time. I just never got it to the table, and I ended up trading it on before the app came out that allowed you to play it solo. So it's something I would certainly revisit.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rebellion, I think that's something that I wouldn't be surprised if Roy and I play at some point, because I know he knows the game and likes the game a lot, and I think he would teach it to me. Um, so here's an interesting question, and it's interesting not just because on its surface is interesting. Another question from EarthFat, but it's interesting for a reason I'll explain in a moment. Have you seen Blinks on Kickstarter? What do you think the future of our hobby will
Mhm.
look like? So first of all, you look like there's some recognition there. Have you seen this, Mark?
Yeah, it's the little hexagonal sort of
Hexagonal
light up
LEDs.
bits that kind of
Hmm.
magnetize together and stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think it's
Hmm.
something completely new. I've not seen
Yeah.
anything quite like it yet.
Yeah. I
Um,
um I played this game, a little bit of it with Jason Levine,
mm,
before we went on the Dice Tower cruise. Jason had a copy of it, and he showed it to me, and it was really cool. I mean, it was really novel and unique, and I didn't play enough of it to get any sense of if the games themselves were if there was much there or not. And so I'm not saying there is or isn't. But just today, as a matter of fact, I was editing a review that Jason Levine, he doesn't do a lot of reviews, but he did one for this game. So
Yeah.
you can be looking for that on the channel here soon. I won't say whether he liked it or not. I've already spoiled one thing tonight. But I thought it was interesting. So here's my issue, I guess. I really am not one of those people that feel like you can't integrate technology or apps into board games. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think it's fine. But for some reason, I'm struggling to think of this as a board game. Although, how is it any different
Right.
than something like Hive, right? Just an abstract
Yeah. Sure.
hexagonal game. It really isn't. So I
Yeah.
think that but if Hive can be done with Bakelite tiles, right? And this can do so much more than that. So I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'd love to see it turn into something really cool, and maybe it already is really cool. But I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'll leave it at that. I've already babbled enough. Cautiously
Yeah.
optimistic.
Yeah. I think for me, it seemed more like a gaming system, and it would be like
Yeah.
kind of interesting to see what comes out. I kind of thought of it a bit like what was the Looney Labs thing? Pyramids, is it?
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
the
the
pyramids.
colorful, different colored pyramids,
Yeah, yeah.
where like they can be used for loads of different games and people come up with different games for it. And I think that's more what it'll be like. I don't know that we'd see that same technology be put into other games. Like I don't see how it could be at this point. I might be proved horribly wrong,
Well, hey,
but I don't see how they could use that for in Imperial Assault or something like like
right.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe
The
I
the
can,
the, the part of it
but
that was
it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it is. And the part of it I think that was a little intriguing to me, and I didn't realize this until I was watching his video today, was that apparently you can plug into these things and program them. Like you can program your own games into
Oh,
those.
okay.
And that's kind of cool. I mean, I way beyond my intelligence level, but I'm sure someone could. Um, Lily Rock, who does Mark usually play games with regularly? Of course, before the current condition, family or a regular bunch of friends.
Yeah, regular friends usually have kind of a bi-weekly or fortnightly, which I know is not
Yeah,
every other week
fortnightly. Is that?
gaming group.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this is actually my games room, so you might be able to see my gaming
Ah,
table
okay.
behind me there with fast
Yeah.
slots and Yukon Airways on it, which I just got the other day.
Oh, have you
Uh,
played either of those games, Mark?
I played Fast Sloths on Tabletop Simulator.
Okay,
It's really fun.
it's great.
It's very good.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Um, and Yukon Airways was recommended to me by Matthew Jude because I love Castell.
Mm, okay.
Is probably up there in a top 10 game for me. I love that
Hmm.
game, and he was saying that it has a lot of similar feelings of like kind of balancing a lot of different things, and so yeah. So that was my main gaming. We have a local group here. It's obviously, like I said, I've got two young kids, so it's easier if I can game here because then my wife can do some stuff. If one of us goes out, it necessitates the other person
Sure.
staying in. So I try and get down to that gaming group when I can. They're thankfully very friendly and welcoming,
Yes.
and they're happy for people to just kind of pop in and out. It's just held in the pub, so that's pretty good. My wife and I play. She is I wouldn't describe her as a gamer, but she does like playing games. She prefers games probably on the lighter
Sure.
end of things. So we play a lot of Ticket to Ride. I'm a big Ticket to Ride fan. Again,
Hmm.
just out of shot, I've got the huge wooden box with all the different
Ah,
maps in and stuff. So we're just trying to. I've not played all of the maps yet, but we're just trying to play our way through the maps. And most recently, we played Italy, which
I haven't
is a
played that
really
map
interesting
yet.
map. So
Yeah, that looks really interesting. And
yeah,
that's got Japan on the opposite side, is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard both of those maps are really good actually.
Yeah.
I haven't played it. Yukon Airways, I haven't played Castell, but from what I've heard about it, I can see where maybe there would be a connection. Yukon Airways was really good, very puzzly. Sean from the Game
Mhm.
Pit and Natalie taught me that at Gearstones actually.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
enjoyed
yeah.
that quite a bit.
Cool.
And Fast Logs I think is
The
fantastic.
what? Yeah. A slight frustration that I've found with Yukon Airways so far is actually putting those dials together.
Yeah, I've heard.
It's
I
like
didn't have to mess with any of that, so I got the best of. Yeah,
six
I got the
dials,
best of it.
4 player boards. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
that would be an issue. There's no doubt. And before I put Lily's question away, she says, or Lily says, I'm about to play Thunderbirds for the first time solo. Since my boyfriend thinks it may be
awesome.
goofy, I'm glad you're going to play it. I love Thunderbirds. I go on and on about that game, so I won't do it again. And Land says very kind words about my solo review, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm still, you know, I'm stumbling my way through. I've been enjoying doing them. Uh, I'm being asked. Now this is cruel. This is being cruel here, Earthfat. Mike, how do you pronounce um, Worcestershire sauce? So I think that's how I pronounce it, Worcestershire. Mark, am I in the
Yeah.
ballpark there, or is it
I
Worcester
think
sauce? You
if
guys
you
say
went
it
into a shop
Worcester
and asked for
sauce,
that, we'd say Worcester sauce. Yeah, yeah.
right?
But I
Right.
think if
Okay.
you went into a shop and asked for that, you'd get what you're after.
Yeah, along with some snickering behind their hands, I'm sure. Um,
Yeah.
let's see here. Do you have a favorite Ameritrash game and a favorite Euro game?
Oh wow. Well, Euro, I guess we've already covered it. Probably
Yeah.
Crafters or
Hmm.
Voyages of Marco Polo. Um, Ameritrash is harder. I'll be honest. I'm certainly more in the kind of light midweight Euro game.
Hmm.
I'd class myself as a Euro gamer. Um, but I definitely, I guess, would Gravwell count? That's a lot
Probably.
of
I mean, I don't know
fun.
that I've played Gradwell actually, so you'd have to tell me. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't know whether I guess you're kind of space. You're trying to escape like a portal,
Right.
but it's a lot of interaction, a lot of backwards and forwards. Like kind of
Mm.
a really interesting card thing where when you take cards, you get one face up and one face down, so people
Mm.
know half of the cards that you've got and
Okay.
can try and figure out because you all play off of each other. Your ships are trying to move their way out. I don't know actually. Yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah,
I was quickly trying to scan my shelves down here. Well,
I tend
oh,
to like the hybrids, that are kind of a little mixture of both. I mean, I guess
yeah,
the
yeah,
if I would what would probably be considered Ameritrash games that I like are Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. I like Cthulhu Wars quite a bit, although I would argue that both of those games are probably more Euro than people might readily think.
hmm
Um, yeah, those are the first two that come to mind. And I mean, Euros. I mean, what would you consider Scythe? I mean, is that a Euro? Is that an Ameritrash? Is it a hybrid? I think of it as a hybrid game, personally, but that's my
yeah,
favorite game, so
yeah,
it's got to fit into one of those two.
yeah. I think if I would put it more on the Euro side of thing because of
Yeah,
what you're doing,
it's an
like rather
efficiency
than
game.
I think it's
Yeah,
kind of like yeah, yeah, yeah. But I also love it. I just think it's a great game.
I knew I liked you, Mark. All right, Coralu, Mike, and Mark, have you played Forgotten Waters, the new Plaid Hat Crossroads game?
Yeah, no, I've not. It looks very cool, and I've just not had the opportunity. I'm not sure it's readily available here yet.
Mm,
I'd have to check.
I'm
But it
trying to.
does look really cool. I love that system.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to figure out where the heck I put it.
But oh,
I have it around here somewhere. I must have moved it. Actually, Roy and I played it. We played it on Skype, so it was interesting. We
okay,
we we played it remotely, and we both have a copy of it. Although apparently Plaid Hat is trying to work out. Oh, it's right there. Plaid Hat is trying to work out a way that as long as one person has it, you can play it remote. And so we only played once, and it was only with the two of us, which I get the impression is not probably the ideal way to play it. I think I my impression is
yeah, sure.
three should probably be the minimum. Um, but I'm really, really intrigued. I think that there could be a really cool experience there. I can't wait to play it in a. Um, there's been some questions. I don't know if there were any in this chat, like the first game that you would want to play, kind of when you can get back together with a group. That probably right now would be the game that I would most want to play with a group,
Yeah.
um, because I'm really excited about what I saw that first little game that Roy and I played. And again, it was under not ideal circumstances, playing remote, two players controlling different things. It works. You can play it two player. You can actually play it solo. And I think it's fine if you want to experience the story, but I don't know if you're getting the best experience that way. That's just my gut.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Corey Christensen, what color do you usually play as?
Blue. Yeah.
You're a blue player. Um, if
Blue
um,
play.
if if purple is an option, I will go for purple, which is one of the issues that I have now working for the Dice Tower. Um, because if you play with Tom and there's purple, Tom's getting purple, and there's
Oh, yeah.
no way I'm gonna fight Tom
Okay.
over a color. I mean, I'm gonna. Of course, the boss gets the color he wants. So my backup color is blue. Um, then I would go green.
Yeah. So yeah, I usually blue, then green, then red, maybe.
Yeah,
Um, as long as
yeah.
I'm not yellow, I think that's my biggest thing. As long as I'm not yellow,
I know. I feel
man, I
bad,
hate
but
that color.
I'm not a yellow fan. I'm not a fan of yellow either. I'm really not. I'm just not. Games of
We
Fire. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
we d- I was just saying we did a thing. So one of the things we have at Airecon is mugs. We call them air
Mm-hmm.
cups, and people you can get discounted hot drinks if you have a branded mug.
Ah.
But this year, logistically, it was a bit of a pain. But we did player colors, so you could get your color mug, and it said like I'm the blue player or I'm the purple player or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that would
That's
be
fun.
cool. Games of Fire asks, "What is your favorite Ticket to Ride map?"
Uh, I think I keep feeling like I'm caveating a lot of these questions. I think that would depend on the group that I'm playing with. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it's my wife and I, my favorite one would probably be India. I think that's a really neat map for two
Mm.
players.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy the Italy one. I think that did some clever stuff. My if it was just a normal group, 4 people, I would always probably go Europe.
Yeah.
Um, I really like the what was the one with the stocks? Is that Pennsylvania?
That sounds.
I feel
Yeah.
like it was.
Yeah. The Pennsylvania map. I think you're right.
I think it's on the backside of the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was really really fun because I thought like it's a nice map anyway, but I think just adding that one little thing of the stocks in was very clever.
Yeah. No, I agree. Jerry D, Delicio, Cook. What are your favorite store brand cookies? Now, I bring this up because I have a feeling you're gonna name a brand that I'm not even familiar with. Um, I'm betting you're going to be going
Yeah.
for UK based cookies, which you don't call cookies. You call them the shocking term of biscuits.
Oh.
Which I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
we're
of
not going to
course.
we're not going
Yeah.
to get into this here, but so what are your favorite biscuits?
I actually really like Oreos.
Oh, do
I'm a big
you?
Oreo fan.
Okay.
Uh,
Ah, regular
yeah,
Oreo,
yeah.
double
I like all.
stuff.
We don't get as many. Yeah, I probably regular. I think double stuff's a bit
Hmm.
too much
Yeah,
cream.
yeah.
Um, but they're not as big here, and we don't have as many flavors. Like some of the flavors have started coming over here, so we can get like birthday cake and mint and
Uh-huh.
golden and things like that now. But
Yeah,
for a
those
long
golden
time,
Oreos.
we had no choice.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
golden
yeah.
Oreos are
But yeah,
legit.
certainly, yeah. Cookies. I was thinking like the big squidgy things.
Yeah.
That's what we would call a cookie.
I guess I would say
Uh,
if you consider Girl Scout cookies to be store brand, I do like the Samoas. I like the Samoas cookies. Um, do
yeah.
the UK are they Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts there? Do they have an equivalent or
We have Girl Guides and Boy Scouts.
okay,
Yeah. Um,
okay. And do
but
they sell
yeah,
do
but
they
they
sell
don't do the
cookies as
cookie thing.
well?
Like they don't
Oh, okay.
go. don't go door to door trying to sell you sweet treats. I'll quickly say a UK brand of biscuit or cookie that we like is Hobnobs. I don't know if you have Hobnobs.
I've had them because they were brought to a couple of conventions, to Dice Tower conventions, and I had some, and they were delicious. So I have nothing but good things to say about those. I enjoyed those. Dave Coneline just hopped on. Did I miss Mike's daily discussion of wedge salad? So here's the thing about the wedge salad. No, I'm not going to get into this. This is a little call out to my podcast that I do with Dan. Both of my podcasts actually, Sporadically Bored and Order from Chaos. There's a slanderous idea out there that I've spent too much time talking about wedge salads, but I do have thoughts about wedge salads. This is not the time nor the place, but I do have thoughts about wedge salad. So, Mark, I know we're getting close to the end, and I know it's remarkably actually early for you, so I won't keep you long. But let's end on a question here. So here, I'm going to leave this question just to you, Mark, because I've answered this one a number of times, but actually, you've answered this question already too on Sporadically Bored, but they may not have heard it, and you may have changed your mind on this. What is an underrated game that you like, that you maybe want to champion? So what would be like an unsung gem for you?
I think one, because there's often games that, so I would say things like Castell or even like Passing Through Petra, things like that, like are a lot of games that don't get a lot of love, but they are often, as soon as you say it to someone, they kind of go, oh, that's great. Most people have still heard of them. I think one that you don't hear a lot of chat about, and I think is a really good game that I've not heard, I've not sort of played much similar, maybe more similar, but would be Murano.
Oh, yeah. I haven't played that, but I've heard really good. That's like a rondel, yeah?
Yeah. Just a huge rondel, and it's action selection, but the way they do it with the gondolas and stuff is just really interesting. I think one of the reasons it kind of maybe flew under the radar is when you first get the board out and put it on the table, it's just brown. Like, and I've seen a couple of games do this. It's like, why? Out of all the things you could have done, especially Murano. In the Venice Lagoon is known for its really colourful glass and all of this kind of stuff, and it's just, you put this board out and it's brown. By the end of the game, it looks really cool because you're adding tiles to it, and it gets really colourful. But I wonder if people just looked at it and kind of went, no. But yeah, you don't see much chat about it really.
But everybody that I've talked to that's played it has really said good things about it. So I need to try that out, because I've heard too many times that it's a good game. So you may be the one that pushes me over the edge, Mark. Next time I get near a game of Murano, I'm in. That's all I have to say. All right. Well, it is remarkably early for you and remarkably late for me, because as we've clearly established, not only on these daily chats but elsewhere, I am an old man, and 10 p.m. is well past my bedtime. So I have really enjoyed talking to you again, Mark. I mean, we've had a chance to talk on a number of different things, but it's always a pleasure. So and thank you for all of your wonderful answers to our fantastic questions that the Dice Tower friends have put up here.
Great.
And I hope you all enjoyed it, and for any of you that watch this later, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. And Mark, also, I know that you may be getting a lot of emails now for people that are asking about starting up conventions. So you might want to clear out your inbox here soon.
Yeah, I did see someone put it right in the comments. It's just Mark at Airecon, as you see it spelled on the screen, .uk.
All right.
Get to me.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Mark, thanks again. It was a pleasure. And
thanks so much.
Thanks again for everyone for watching. And I guess all that's left to say is goodbye.
Bye, everyone.